Knight versus Nelson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Okay. This case has to do with who ultimately is going to be the owner of and the caretaker of this little dog. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I would like the dog outside. Miss Knight, the defendant is, or was, your son's girlfriend. Is that right?
She still is, Your Honor.
Okay. According to your complaint, some time ago, she asked you if you would be interested in taking her dog.
That's correct.
You said yes, you took the dog, and many months later, she came and took the dog back.
That's correct.
And you want the dog or some sort of compensation for the dog?
I want the dog.
Ms. Nelson says that this was never a gift to you, but merely a loaner dog, and the dog is rightfully hers. She has the papers for the dog. She merely asked you to watch the dog for a while, and she is counterclaiming because she alleges that you assaulted her when you attempted to get the dog back. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. When and under what circumstances did you take custody of this dog?
Last May, at my son's birthday breakfast, Gina asked me if I would be willing to give her dog a home, that it was outside all the time. It wasn't getting the attention it needed.
Why was it outside all the time?
As I understand it, because she wasn't completely housebroken and they didn't like the accidents in the home.
Okay.
I said, sure, I would take her. I'm a big dog lover. Approximately 2 to 3 days later, my son brought the dog over.
How old was the dog at that time?
As I understand, almost 3. Over the months, of course, I fell in love with her. She's a darling little dog. Over the months, I allowed Gina and the children, she has 2 daughters, to come visit the dog whenever they wanted. My daughter took the dog to Gina's for a birthday party for the dog. And then February 17th, Krista, the older daughter, called asking if they could I call her Sissy, for a visit. I said, call me tomorrow because I'm a night worker. I was leaving for work. The next morning at 7:30, Gina called me. I said, sure, come on over. She came over. The dog was on antibiotics at that time for just having a dental exam and ointment for her ears. I gave Gina the medication and some dog food. She asked me what time I wanted her back. I said, just keep her for the night because I will go to sleep. By the time I wake up, it will be way too late. I said, please leave me your phone number. I'll call you tomorrow when I get up and around. The next day, I tried calling, and I started calling early afternoon. I wasn't getting an answer. I didn't really think too much of it. By around 5 o'clock, I still wasn't getting a machine or an answer. I called my son, who was just about ready to leave work. I said, Jason, can you go get the dog? Gina's not answering the phone. He had said they'd had a little spat and hadn't spoken for a few days. He would go get the dog. An hour or two later, he came to my front door and said, Mom, she doesn't want to give the dog back. And I said, let's go. I want to go get my dog back. So he took me down she had just moved into another residence. I didn't know where she lived. He took me down there. I knocked on the door. I could see she was looking through the peephole. And I said, Gina, give me back my dog. She opened the door and she said, it's my dog. I have the papers to prove it. And I'm calling the police and you're going to jail. And she pushed me out the door by my face. I grabbed her by the shirt. I saw the little girl run past and I said, this is ridiculous. And I went out and waited for the police. I was upset. I was crying. I'm devastated over this.
Okay. Let's go back to May of last year. Tell me the conversation that you allege you had with Miss Knight with regard to taking possession of the dog.
Okay, we were moving somewhere which did not allow pets and didn't have a backyard, so I asked her if she'd be willing to take care of my dog since she had 2 little chihuahuas of her own. And she said sure she would, and I wanted to go visit, I wanted somewhere where I can still go visit her and take my children.
Where had you lived before that?
It was a 3-bedroom duplex with a backyard.
So why were you moving?
The rent was going up from $650 to $950, and I'm a single mother with 2 children. I couldn't afford it.
How long was the lease?
The lease was month to month.
Go ahead.
It was understood at the time.
Don't tell me what was understood. I want to know what you said to her, what you claim you said to her, and what she said to you.
Okay, I did let her know that it was just until I moved somewhere else in the future with a backyard, and I did want my dog back. And she agreed.
Did you say when that might be?
No, I did not.
So what you're telling me is that you were planning on letting this dog live with her for a year or maybe more,
Well,
since you didn't know where you were going to be moving, and then you wanted the dog back.
Correct.
Didn't you have any concern that the dog might become attached to her and her family?
Yes, I did, but we didn't have a verbal agreement in the beginning that I could get my animal back.
That's what you claim. That's not what she says.
Right, correct.
That's what you claim. And I'm asking you the question, if you love this dog, weren't you at all concerned that if you left the dog there for 6 months or a year, that the dog would become attached to her, would have to have the separation from you and your family, and then become attached to her, and then you were going to take the dog back? Didn't you take that into
Yes,
consideration?
but we would go visit her. We would call her a few times a week to go see if we can see the dog. There was times where she wouldn't allow us to go visit the dog. So we saw the dog at least 2 or 3 times a month, as long as she would persist that we could.
Well, 2 or 3 times a month isn't
owning a
visiting.
dog.
Isn't owning a dog and taking care of a dog 30 days a month, 24/7.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Started calling me profanities, telling me she wanted the dog back. She started pushing, trying to break in my house, assaulting me. She choked me. She tried to rip my shirt off. I had a bruise on my arm, a bruise on my leg. My daughter was hysterical. Finally, I got the door shut, and then I went and talked to the officer on the phone.
Jean Kite says her son's girlfriend, Gina Nelson, gave her a Chihuahua and then stole it back.
She took the dog in May, and tell me about February 17th.
We called to see if we can get visitations with the dog.
Yes?
I spoke with her son, Jason, about getting my dog back because I just moved somewhere with a yard, and that does allow
You
animals.
said initially you called about getting visitation.
Right.
And who did you speak to?
I spoke to Jeannie,
And what did you tell her?
told her that we were going to come over and get the dog for visitations.
Okay.
So we went over, we picked up the dog, she did give me medication and all that, and then we brought her back home. I had a conversation with her son. I told him that I wanted the dog back.
So that's after you had the dog in your possession.
Actually, that was before, and he said he wouldn't suggest
Well, you can't
it.
tell me that what you had, conversation that you had with someone who's not here. I want to know what the conversation was that you had with her. And the conversation you had with her was that you were coming to
Visitations.
pick up the dog for a visit.
Right.
So now you have the dog in your possession. What happened?
February 19th, we took her with us all during the day, and we were not home. And she came to my door, and she knocked on my door. I looked out the people. I opened the door. She proceeded.
Had you gotten a message on your machine that she was
No,
calling
we just
you?
moved in, so my answer machine wasn't hooked up yet.
So nobody called you? Neither she nor her son called you and said
Correct.
she wants the dog?
Nobody called me.
Okay,
She showed up.
but you were in fact home when she got there.
Yes, I was.
Go ahead.
So I was home, and she came up to the door, and she started yelling profanities at me and telling me that she wanted her dog back and that I was a fat B word. And
Had you already spoken to your boyfriend and told him that you weren't giving the dog back?
yes, I did.
Of course you did, because that's why she came over.
Correct.
Now, what time did you speak to him?
6:15 p.m.
So you were home at that time.
Yes, I was.
What time had you arrived home?
5:45, 6 o'clock.
How did he get you? On the telephone? Or did he go
No,
over?
he came to the door.
So he just happened to come over just a couple of seconds after you came home.
Yes, he got off work at 6 o'clock.
So why didn't you at that point, when you knew that the plaintiff was trying to reach you, pick up the phone and call her and have a discussion with her on the phone?
Because I was shaken up from her son coming over and yelling. And I told him that I did discuss it with him before, that I was going to get the dog back, and he was telling me not to because she would get violent and out of control.
Go ahead.
And so we had a verbal agreement beforehand that I would
Don't
get
tell
my
me
dog
what your
back.
verbal agreement was. I have to make
Okay.
a determination if you had a verbal agreement at all.
Right.
That's my job. That's what this case is all about, whether or not there was an agreement. So far, I'm not convinced.
She knocked on the door. I looked out the people, saw it was her and her son. I opened the door. She started calling me profanities, telling me she wanted the dog back. She started pushing, trying to break in my house, assaulting me. She choked me. She tried to rip my shirt off. And I was pushing her with my hip, trying to get her out the door. I had my arm on the door and my leg. I had a bruise on my arm, a bruise on my leg from her trying to break into my house. My daughter was hysterical. Both my children were hysterical. She called 911, and I do have the 911 tape with me as evidence. And finally, I got the door shut, and then I went and talked to the officer on the phone, the dispatcher. Mm-hmm. And then the officer came out, and he said that it was my dog. And
No, he didn't say it was your dog. He said you had the papers.
well, I
You
do
couldn't
have
take
all the
dog.
papers and the license and everything. And
What is your name?
Krista.
Krista. Come up here, Krista. I want to ask you some questions. Krista, I want you to think back. Do you remember the day that the dog came back to your house?
Yes.
Did you stay home that day when the dog was in your house?
Yeah, we stayed home, had fun with her.
Now, I want you to think back to the next day. Do you remember what time you got up in the morning?
Around 8,
And what did you do?
we got dressed and we left and
Where did you go?
went to other stores. We
What
went,
store?
like, Pack and Save. Mm,
So you got a food store?
yes.
So you left the dog home.
No, we brought her with us.
The dog can't go in the food store.
I know we found that out.
So you left.
Right.
And then where did you go?
We went home and dropped her off.
So you dropped the dog home, and then where did you go?
We left, and we went and we visited a friend.
Well, just a minute. If you dropped the dog off at home, didn't you go back to Pack and Save?
Yeah, but my mom had to go to her friend's house real quick.
How long did you stay at your mom's friend's house?
Maybe 15 minutes, and then we left.
And then where did you go from there?
Pack and Save.
And did you buy a whole lot of stuff?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yes.
Groceries?
Yeah.
And then I assume you went home to drop the groceries off.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Right.
Where did you have lunch?
At home.
And after you had lunch, what did you do?
We went someplace else, but I can't recall where that place was.
Well, was it a
Sure.
store or friends?
It's probably another store.
Mm-hmm. Probably, but you don't remember.
Right.
Did you buy anything?
No.
Where was the dog at that time?
She came with us. Some stores allow. Precious.
Well, I know that some stores do allow them. What I'm asking you is, you took the dog with you at that time to go to a store, but you don't remember the name of the store.
Right.
And then where did you go?
We stayed out probably for a while, and then we came home around 5 maybe and had dinner.
You have a telephone in your house?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
You have caller ID on your phone? Do you have caller ID on your telephone?
Yes.
You do? Sit down.
I have some records in the vet care that I gave for this dog during the months I had her. If you'd like to look at them.
Yeah, I'll take a look at them. Okay, where did you purchase this dog, Miss Nelson?
From the newspaper?
Was this the first dog that you had had?
Yes, it is.
And you were very attached to the dog?
Yes, I am.
And your children were very attached to the dog?
Yes.
Then can you explain to me why you chose to move into a month-to-month tenancy arrangement where you couldn't have the dog?
Because the rent, like I said, the rent was going to $950. I couldn't afford it. And I was in the process of getting Section 8, and I moved into those apartment complexes that would allow me to get on Section 8.
Did you ultimately get into Section 8 housing?
Yes, I am on Section 8, yes.
Now,
Yes, I am.
why didn't you, Miss Nelson, if you claimed that you had an agreement with the plaintiff, call her and tell her on the 17th of February or the 18th of February, I'm now in an apartment, so I can have the dog back. You've been great taking care of her, but I'd like to come and get her.
I didn't want to get in an altercation because I knew she wouldn't give the dog back.
That's not evidence, Miss Nelson. So you really took the dog under false pretenses.
Yes.
So you can understand why she was angry when she came to your house. I have a problem with the way that you went about getting this dog back. Because if what you say is true, then what the plaintiff did was a real wonderful service for you. For May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, 8.5 or 9 months. She took care of your dog. You gave her no money. She took the dog to the vet. She fed the dog. She took care of the dog. And what you're saying is she did that out of the goodness of her heart because she cared for you and she was there to help you. And you deceived her. That's if I believe you. By coming, saying, we're just coming for a visit. Going to pick up the dog. Great. And then you said, now you're not getting back. You never paid for anything for this dog. Did you ever pay for board?
No, I did not. But
Did you ever pay for the vet?
neither did she. No.
I didn't ask you that. Did you ever pay for the vet?
No, I did not.
You never paid for the dog's food
No, I did not.
for 9 months?
No, I did not.
New leash, toys, anything else or board. So if I were to believe you, she was really doing you a tremendous service. And you repaid her service by not being honest. And again, I have a concern that you had no idea how long it was going to take for you to get an apartment where you could have this dog. Could have taken a month, 2 months, 3 months. As it happens, it took almost 9 months. That time, the dog is now in another environment with 2 other dogs that it's sort of bonded with. You have 2 chihuahuas. That's what you said?
Yes.
Has 2 chihuahuas, has a good time, has a good life, plays with other dogs.
Actually, when I got her back, if you look at the dog, she has sores on her side and she has sores in her ears, and they're just now getting better from being beaten up by the other dogs.
That's what dogs do when they play. They chihuahuas. I mean, she doesn't have Great Danes.
Right.
In any event, I am not satisfied, Miss Nelson, that you had an arrangement with the plaintiff that she was just going to be babysitting for your dog. And if you make an arrangement for somebody to board your dog for a period of 9 months, you make an arrangement for that person to be compensated for that. And in addition, I think that you knew that this wasn't a merely boarding arrangement, because that's the reason why you went and got the dog back under circumstances that were dishonest. So, Miss Knight, you're getting your dog back. And I'm addressing your counterclaim, and based upon what I've determined during the course of this lawsuit, and this pushing and shoving that took place at the door when she tried to get the dog back, I'm perfectly satisfied with your daughter's testimony that you have caller ID on your phone, that you were home a good deal of the time during the day when the plaintiff was trying to call you, that you chose not to answer the phone, that you chose not to answer the phone when your boyfriend called you, that you couldn't avoid it when he came to your house. I believe your daughter has been what you tried to coach her sufficiently, but she could not withstand some questions that went, I believe, to the heart of the matter, which was you avoided the plaintiff all during the day in hoping that the situation would go away, so you provoked a situation where she had to come to your house. So your counterclaim is dismissed and the dog is awarded to the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you, Judge Judy.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She gave me this dog and then stole it back, and Judge Judy's the greatest thought through her.
She assaulted me and she got away with it.
I feel like I'm gonna die because I've had her ever since she was a baby and I don't want to lose her.
She'll never get married again.
Really, like, tortured with her being gone, and we're not gonna have our dog.
I love this little dog. I had her for almost 9 months.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McCall versus Wilhelm. Step forward, please.
71-year-old Bourbon McCall is suing his former friend, 32-year-old student Sandra Wilhelm, for unpaid loans and the cost of a car. Sandra says Bourbon's lawsuit is an attempt to keep her in his life.
Mr. McCall, it is your claim in this complaint that you were romantically involved with the defendant and made a series of loans to her, including a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Then she broke it off, and you want your money back.
Yes, Your Honor.
When and where did you meet Mr. McCall?
I met Sandra at a local pub that we both frequented
Okay. When?
sometime in March, Your Honor.
And when did you make this first loan?
Well, the first thing that happened, I had bought a computer, and Sandra agreed to come over and download it for me. Then she'd had an accident, and she had picked up a DUI, and her car was wrecked. So I then called her and asked her if I could be of any help to her. She said, well, my mother's got a car, that 88 Crown Victoria. Her mother was asking $2,300 for the car. I gave Sandra $2,300. We went in. She gave us the title. We then proceeded to go down and get it plated and titled.
Did you expect Miss Wilhelm to pay you back the money?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Did you ever tell her that?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Shh! Quiet. When did you tell her that?
I told her that before we bought the car. I said,
What did you say?
I said, if we buy a car, I'll help you get a car. But I said, I want title to that car. She said, well, how am I going to get plates and insurance and the rest of it? Why don't we just purchase a vehicle? You'll have the first lien on the vehicle so that I'm protected.
The truth of the matter is, you really are not terribly protected. All you are, if you had title to the car, is you're exposed in case she has an accident, in case she doesn't get insurance.
Well, she did that.
I know, but that's a problem. Miss Wilhelm, first of all, how old are you?
32.
How old are you, sir?
71.
Okay. Miss Wilhelm, this, whatever kind of relationship you had with the plaintiff was of relatively short duration. I read your answer very clearly, and your answer says that he clearly wanted more from the relationship than you were prepared to give him.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Can I see the title to the car, please?
Yes.
Who
I
has
just
the
have the
title?
certificate of title.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's a copy of the title.
And I'd like to see the certificate of
This is Exhibit B and C showing the registration and the application.
I just want the title to the car.
He has the title.
This is a copy. Who has
Yeah.
the original?
I have the original at home. I just made a copy of it, Your Honor.
Well, that wasn't very smart, sir.
Well, I'm not.
That wasn't very smart, because I read the defendant's answer very clearly. She says, Bourbon's goal was to control me. When I didn't respond to his advances, he became increasingly hostile. Is that true?
That is correct.
It's not true.
Eventually, I told him that he could have the car back because it's not worth the harassment. That's what you wrote. Is that what you wrote?
Yes.
Good. Sign the title over to him. Sign it over. Now,
He has the title.
you're going to sign the copy. We'll conform it. Show where to sign, Bird, would you please? You're getting good at that.
Where? He told me he didn't want the car, Your Honor.
Sign the title over to him.
Signature of seller. And print your name.
Now, give it to him, please. Thank you, Bird. Perfect. Now, let's get to the second part of your lawsuit is you made a series of loans to the defendant. When did they start?
Started after we had purchased the automobile.
That's not true.
She just needed money time after time, and I felt like we were committed enough. We already committed that we would go to Texas once she got through her ordeal, and that she would move with me, take the kids. She wanted out of Indiana, so did I.
She's 40 years your junior.
Yes, I know, Your Honor.
Very foolish.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very foolish. Do you have a promissory note, sir?
No, Your Honor.
You gave her money for a lawyer.
Yes,
How much money did you give her for a lawyer?
$500.
That's not true.
You gave her money to pay her mortgage.
$500.
Did you ever get a note from her for any of those things?
No, Your Honor, I was too involved.
Well, you were too involved, and that's what you get when you're too involved.
That's
sir.
right.
You don't get paid for that.
That's right.
That's stupidity.
Well, I said that to myself.
Well, if you said it to yourself, unfortunately, you got to listen to me say it to you again.
That's okay. That's
So this was a lesson that cost you perhaps a couple of $1,000s. Miss Wilhelm says that you never gave her any money, I assume. Is that right?
That's correct.
Never gave you any money?
No.
I don't know whether I believe you that he never gave you any money. I sort of think he probably did. In any event, you knew each other for a total of maybe 8 weeks. In the 8 weeks, the plaintiff is out a substantial amount of money. I can't get you back all the money that you were out, sir, because I really feel as if you didn't have a contract with her with regard to these cash loans that you made to her, cash gifts that you made to her. But clearly, it was your intention to have a hold on the car, which was the largest amount of money that you turned over to the plaintiff, by having your name placed as a lien holder on the car. That is some evidence of a debt. That is why you got your car back. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Rest of your claim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Basically, is trying to make a relationship.
She was claiming what was not true.
I thought them being 40 years my senior that it would be totally harmless.
She was unwilling to settle it outside the court.
He told me he was not interested in the car.
I did have proof that I had interest in the car.
Basically wanted to go ahead and keep that as leverage to keep things ongoing in a manner which I couldn't accept.
Her Elizabeth Ellison is suing her neighbor, 25-year-old telemarketer Cynthia West, for stealing her dog. Cynthia is countersuing, claiming Elizabeth filed a false report with Child Services.
Order. All rise.
Yes, it's case number 56 on the calendar in the matter of Ellison versus West. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Ellison, you and Miss West were friends.
Yes,
Your complaint states that you had an argument over something,
the children.
and subsequently you were receiving some harassing calls. You decided that you needed some protection, so you got a dog.
Yes,
It is your claim that the defendant, in retaliation for something, enticed the dog onto her property and subsequently adopted the dog. You want the dog returned to you
correct.
or its value.
Yes,
Okay? How long have you lived in the same neighborhood?
about a year and a half, 2 years.
Is that how you know her, from the neighborhood?
Yes,
When did you get the dog?
the 15th of March.
Where did you get the dog?
I used to be a dog groomer by trade, and one of my former customers asked me to take her because her daughter had very severe allergies. I had to get rid of the animals, unfortunately.
What kind of dog is it?
And she's a Dalmatian Black Lab mix.
She's a mutt.
Yes.
So you took the dog?
Yes.
Didn't pay for the dog, but you
No,
took the
ma'am.
dog. Where did you put the dog when you brought the dog home?
We tied the dog outside in the front because we were having a lot of harassment problems.
Is it a fenced yard?
Not in the front, no.
What was she tied with?
She was tied with a brand new chain and collar, and that we bought her before we bought.
Did the dog have a license on the collar?
No,
So that there was no identifying mark on the collar?
no.
What time did you come home from picking up the dog?
About 5:30, 6 o'clock.
And what time did you find the dog missing?
I didn't put her out until about 9:30.
At 9:30 you found the dog missing.
Yes.
What did you do?
First, we went out searching for her all over the neighborhood, and my husband said she's probably down at Cindy's. At first, I didn't think Cindy would, go that low, but she did. And we made signs, and we put the signs out early the next morning. My husband,
Where did you put out the signs?
on the telephone poles, one being right beside her home, and another one down the street, and all up and down Galbraith Road, which is the off street from where we go to.
Okay.
I called the SPCA, who had told me that the dog wasn't there yet. I have a lost dog report where I filed
Can
the
I see
lost
it?
dog report that
I'd like to see
morning.
it, please.
Okay. I also got a copy of the sheltered animal report. When I went to go to the SPCA on the first day, the very next morning at 10 o'clock, the animal was not there yet. It wasn't until 1:35 until the animal was picked up by Cindy. She called the SPCA.
Sure, we'll get to her in a second. Okay, now how did you find out the dog was with Miss West?
My daughter went to a local pharmacy around the corner from where we live, which views the backyard of Mrs. West's home. She came in crying, saying that Lacey was in Cindy's backyard. So we went back in the back alley.
When was this? How many days
That
ago?
was a week. It was on the 28th.
Okay.
I said, okay, let's go make sure, Ripley. I said, because, we want to make sure before we call the police.
Okay, so the answer is, was your dog, and did you call the police?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Called the police, you went to her home with the police?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
And she showed the police the adoption papers because she had since adopted this dog?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. West, when did you find this dog?
On the evening of the 15th, had to be about 11:30 at night. It was running freely through the neighborhood. I have a videotape where this dog ran, in an hour and 15 minutes, it ran 17 times through my yard.
Why would you videotape this dog?
I have a security camera on my house because this woman continually harasses me.
Is it on all the time?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I called the SPCA. It was running out in the street, back and forth in the yard. And I opened the door and I said, "Hey, puppy," and the dog walked right in my house. Then, I believe it was Monday, I had called to see if the owner had claimed the dog, and they said that no one had called for the dog, and I went down to see her. Owner has 5 days to claim. I waited 6, and then I went with my son and adopted the dog.
Did you see any signs that Miss Ellison put up in your neighborhood?
No, that's a complete lie.
You didn't see? No,
No.
I don't know whether it's a complete
Well,
lie
I
or
didn't
not.
see any.
The answer is you did not see
No,
any
I didn't see
signs.
any.
Okay. Now let's get to your counterclaim for a minute.
Okay.
Your counterclaim is that the plaintiff vindictively called Protective Services, uncross your arms, called Protective Services and said things about you with regard to your children, causing your children to be removed from your custody for over 3 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I'd like you to tell me about that because that's your counterclaim.
Yes. In the period when we were friends, there were several times that she stipulated to me that no matter what happened, not to call 241 Kids because she runs a very filthy household. And so we had agreed to that. If we hadn't, I'd have called Children's Services before she did. But I give my word,
I don't want to
stick
hear
it.
you. Go ahead.
On March 1st, Children's Services knocked on my door claiming that they had got a report for a filthy house. Supposedly there was garbage in my house up to here, that I beat my kids, that I didn't feed my kids, and several other allegations.
Okay.
And my children were removed from me until there was a parental screening done.
Just a second. That's not what Protective Services does. They don't come in, remove children for 3 weeks while they do an investigation. When they receive a report, they come in and they say, "Can we come into your house?" And they come in and they make certain observations. So if they came into your house, they must have found your house filthy.
No.
Did they speak to your children?
Yes.
And it was at that time that they removed the children?
My children weren't
Shh. Answer. Was it at that time that they removed the children?
They were placed under a safety agreement.
Okay. So they allowed the children to remain in your home under an agreement with you. Is that right?
No.
With whom?
My children were not allowed to be left alone with me whatsoever. I either had to have someone stay with me or they had to go to my mother's.
Okay. So they were allowed to stay with you if there was someone else in the house. And that was after they spoke to the children.
It was...
After they spoke to the children.
No.
Wrong.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Elizabeth Ellison says neighbor Cynthia West stole her dog in retaliation for calling child services. Cynthia is countersuing for defamation of character.
When was the agreement entered into that you would not be left unsupervised with your children?
On March 1st.
So this is before the dog disappeared. Was there an investigation?
Was there an investigation?
That's my question.
Yes, I have an open case.
So your case was not marked unfounded. It is still an open case.
I can explain to you why.
Just answer my question.
Okay, yes.
The case was not marked unfounded, which means that there was no merit to the claims. It was an open case, which means it's still outstanding and subject to investigation.
It'll be closed the end of this month.
Who knows?
I do.
Do you have any reports from social services
That's confidential information. It would have to be subpoenaed.
so that you don't have them?
Exactly.
Do you have any initial reports that were furnished from social services?
Those are not public information.
Okay. Is this the first time that social services has visited your home?
Oh, yes.
The first time.
First. Very first.
Why would you and the defendant talk about not calling social services? I mean, I've had lots of friends in my life. One of the things that we certainly never talked about was never calling social services about how we are as parents. We talked about a lot of other things. We complained about our husbands, the local market, but we never had a discussion about social services. Why would you have an agreement with her not to call social services, Miss West?
That was a stipulation that she set down, not I.
No, it was a stipulation you sat down by
Now,
being
okay,
a drug
just a second.
head.
Miss Ellison, you interrupted again, but I'm going to come
I'm
back to you
sorry.
for a second. I'm not going to ask you whether or not you placed this call.
It's an anonymous hotline.
It was because it's an anonymous hotline, so I'm not going to ask you whether you did or not. But it is your belief that because she thought that you placed this call, she retaliated by taking the dog.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I have proof she took the dog.
Let me see.
This is a Coleraine Township Police Department police report. If you would read it, you would see at the bottom, it states that she admitted taking my dog.
Let me see.
And she also knew it was my dog. She told him when she got there. When he got
Don't
there.
tell me what she told him. I'm looking it up.
Sure you don't have a copy of that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to give both of you 1, 2, 3, then you're out of here. Do you understand?
Yes.
Did social services come to visit your house?
Yes, ma'am. I have a copy of my
Can I see it, please?
human resources.
Because I see that after she believed you
You
called
can
on
also,
her.
yes, she did. She called on
you.
me.
All right.
May I comment?
Sure.
I did not make that call. I'm not the only person that knows she runs a filthy house.
Okay. All I can tell you is she has this document here, which you clearly do not have, which indicates that her case was immediately closed.
They made a surprise visit, just like her. Sorry.
I like to conduct a very orderly place. Clean, neat, and orderly.
Go ahead.
You don't have this, that your case was closed. Is that right?
No, because my case is still ongoing. Would you like for me to answer that why? You had asked me that before.
Sure.
The reason my case is ongoing, part of the social interaction with her and I, we'd smoked marijuana together. I was a recreational user. She
That's
gets
a
high
lie,
all
Judge.
day,
I don't
every
want to
day.
hear.
That's what.
Shh, shh. Listen to me. Case closed. Case still open. That's the objective fact.
Because I admitted to my recreational use is the only reason I have an open case.
Because they caught you at the door, you and that Nicole, your
listen.
witness, smoking a joint.
Listen to me.
And you know what
Don't-
happens in my house? huh?
You don't understand? You're going to both be out of here. Well, Miss West, police officer attributes the following to you. She stated that Miss Ellison had her kids taken away, but all she did was take away her dog, Miss Ellison's dog. So she, quote, went pretty light on her. That's what you told the police.
Can I respond?
Yeah, the police don't lie.
Well, no, I'm not going to lie.
You don't get it. Yes, I'm waiting for you to respond.
Okay. This was after she had come to my backyard and was cussing and hollering that I had her dog. That was the first point at which I was aware that this dog had previously belonged to her. And I did tell them that, but like I said, it was after that she had pointed out to me, you have my dog, and a few other explicit words mixed in there. But she had pointed that out to me. So at that point, I did know that it was her dog. But that was the first time that I had knowledge of that.
Who knows? Okay.
Nobody
there-
tapes the dog in a video yard.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I want you to be quiet.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
I have several things to consider. Right now, the dog has been with you for quite some time. Dog is integrated into your household?
Yes.
And you, I assume, take good care of this dog?
Yes.
Good.
No.
I don't want to hear from you yet. I'm primarily concerned about the dog, the children involved. Right now, she is the legal owner of that dog, and your lawsuit wants either the return of the dog or the value thereof, which you place at $500. Shh, quiet. That's what your lawsuit says.
The lawsuit is for, the $500 is for harassment. We would like to have the dog back. That's all we've ever wanted.
What I'm telling you is she is now the legal owner of this dog, and I have to make a judgment as to how I'm going to resolve your lawsuit. I believe that there is a substantial possibility that Miss West did, in fact, come to your property, unchain the dog, and take the dog. That is a possibility. It is also a possibility that the dog got free
I agree.
and was, in fact, roaming around. What she did was she did not secrete the dog. She brought the dog to the ASPCA immediately. You had an obligation to be vigilant and you could go to the ASPCA every day to see if the dog was there. The dog,
I
I'm
called
speaking.
every day.
I don't care. Call. I'm speaking. You had an opportunity to go to the ASPCA every day for day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look for your dog. You did not do that. So put your hand down. So since the dog has been in her custody, you had an opportunity to go and pick up your dog. You did not do that. She did not hide the dog. And there is, again, that possibility that your dog did, in fact, get out. Just get out. She probably knew it was your dog. Not sure. But I don't indulge myself in potentials or possibilities. I'm speaking. So I am awarding you $500. Even though you did not pay for this dog, I believe that Miss West knew or should have known that this was your dog and that there was a bit of retaliation in her keeping the dog and not calling you and letting you know that she had found the dog, and that there was something sneaky about the way she went about going there and legally adopting the dog. But she has legally adopted the dog. The dog is hers. It has been with her and her family for a long time. Okay. Now, Miss West, I'm going to get to your counterclaim, which I am dismissing. What state do you live in?
Ohio.
The state of Ohio does not remove children from their home without cause for 3 weeks without taking a parent to court. Period. End of discussion. No state does that. The state may say, I'm going to give you a warning, clean up your house, but if the state of Ohio is still part of this union, there are certain due process rights that you have. And if your children were removed from your home, as you state in your claim, as a result of what is an anonymous call, and it may well have been Miss Ellison who called. May well have been. But it doesn't make any difference. She did not remove the children from your home. The state removed the children from your home, which means that they found some cause to remove the children from your home. Since you do not have the paperwork to show me what the cause was, I have to assume.
I do have.
Well, you do have now. Swell.
I do have the paper for the safety agreement. I do not have the letter that she has. I left that at home.
I don't want to hear the letter for the safety agreement. I want a report from the state indicating why they removed the children from your home.
This is what this is.
Well, I'll take a look at it. That doesn't look like, I don't want to hear from you. You're finished.
Okay, no problem.
Well, they clearly found you using drugs.
I admitted to it. They asked me
Whether
the
you
question.
admitted to it or they found it. One of the stipulations was adults will refrain from all illegal drug use in the home. Who else lives in the home other than you and your 2 children?
My husband. Nicole's staying with us right now.
Excuse me?
Nicole Lake, this lady right here. Her mother left and went to Florida, so she's staying with me.
She was the one
so
they
she can
found
stay.
doing drugs.
Shh. Don't want to hear you. What do you show me? I read this already.
In the highlight, it shows that Miss Ellison admitted to being the one who called 241.
What difference does it make? The police had cause. The police had cause to remove your children. They either saw or you admitted to using drug use. And listen to me, Miss West, I'm not stupid. If the authorities came to your home and found nothing untoward in your home, found you perfectly straight,
they did.
making matzo ball soup in your kitchen, right? And you just volunteered to them that you used drugs, volunteered to them, you must think that I was born 2 days ago. That's not what happens. They had evidence. They either found you in a condition of being under the influence, they smelled something in your home, they found something in your home, something happened, and then you admitted that you used drugs. But a normal person doesn't invite authorities into their home and say to them, let me tell you everything. Sometimes my house isn't neat, and sometimes my kids' clothes aren't clean, but the worst thing that I do is use drugs. We understand each other. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's
Thank
all.
you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't understand how I knew the dog was...
year-old Matthew Bates is suing his ex-fiancée, 21-year-old nanny Sarah Fisher, for 7 months of unpaid rent. Sarah claims Matthew promised to take care of her.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Quiet in the courtroom. Thank you. Now, this is case number 66 on the calendar, the matter of Bates versus Fisher. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Bates, according to what I've read, you met the defendant at a time when she was 2 months pregnant. Is that right?
That's true.
And you and the defendant, shortly thereafter, moved in together. I believe you were living in your father's home.
Yes.
And it is your claim that during the 7 months that you lived together, there was an agreement that the defendant...
And his daughter, 19-year-old Jennifer, are suing Jennifer's ex-boyfriend, 18-year-old student Andy Kunkel, for kicking her car. Andy says Jennifer took his guitar.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 130 on the calendar, the matter of Lindstrom versus Kunkel. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
You are Mr. Lindstrom?
Correct.
You weren't there during the course of this argument that resulted in damage to a car that you own, that your daughter was driving. Is that right?
That's correct.
So you can have a seat. Ms. Lindstrom, the defendant was your boyfriend. I gather from your papers that you are in the process of breaking up with him. You decided to go over to his house. There was an argument. You decided to take some of your belongings. And an argument ensued, and the argument, I gather, was over a guitar that you were taking with you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the argument extended outside and resulted in your father's car getting dented.
Yes.
You say the defendant caused those dents to the car. Okay, so let's start. When was this argument?
April 5th.
Of this year.
Yes.
Now, when you went over to his apartment, had you already broken up?
It was actually his parents' house, and no, we hadn't.
So you went over there for the purpose of what?
Just to hang out.
And you got into an argument?
Yes.
About what?
Nothing in particular. We were just getting on each other's nerves.
So what did you do?
He asked me to leave, and I said I would leave if I could have my personal belongings back, because we assumed we would never be speaking to each other after that point.
And what personal belongings were you going to take?
I had a guitar, a VCR, and a Sony PlayStation, but at that point I was most concerned about the guitar because I still owed money on it.
Tell me about the guitar.
It's a $650 guitar I purchased from a store. I purchased it on a payment plan, in which I still owed 2 more payments on.
Who plays the guitar?
Andy plays the guitar.
So you gave the guitar to him?
I bought it with the assumption that he would eventually pay me back for it.
You don't buy something under the assumption. When did you give him the guitar?
The day we bought it.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding you buying the guitar.
We went to a store. We both picked out a guitar that we both liked. I actually traded in a guitar that I owned and paid the remainder of the money that was owed with a check. And there's 2 other checks that were going to be cashed at later dates to make up the remaining payment.
How did you get the guitar, sir?
She gave it to me and I brought it over to my house, and I'd been playing it for a couple of months.
What do you mean she gave it to you?
When we moved out of our apartment, she gave the guitar to me and said I could take it to my house.
And said you could take it to your house?
Yes.
Well, did she give it to you as a gift, or did she purchase it to share it?
I asked her to buy it for me as a gift and told her I would pay her back if she wanted me to, and that's what I assumed was going on.
You said 2 different things. You said she bought it for you as a gift, and you said you would pay her back.
The gift part of it was that she was going to pay for half of it and I was going to pay for the other half. That was like the original agreement we had when we went into the store to buy the guitar.
Is that right?
Considering that I had given the guitar store my guitar that I had owned previously, that was the part I was paying for.
Is that right?
Yes.
Fine. So how much money was invested in the guitar?
Probably $450.
That you paid for?
Yes.
Okay. And the agreement was he was to pay you back for that?
Yes.
But he was going to keep the guitar?
Yes.
Did you make any payments to her?
I hadn't at the time that she came over. It was a little while after we'd moved out of our apartment, and the fight just happened, and she took the guitar, and I wanted it back.
Why hadn't you made any payments on it?
I hadn't gotten paid from work yet, so I didn't have any money.
So, Miss Lindstrom, based on your contract, you gave him the guitar.
Yes.
He was to make payments on it. So you had no right to take it from the house.
He hadn't made any payment on it.
You didn't have any time frame for the payments. Is that right?
Correct.
So you had no right to take the guitar. It could have been a lawsuit. You could have sued him for the $450. But the guitar was, in fact, his guitar. You understand that? If you didn't, I'm explaining it to you now. You may have still owed money on the guitar, but your agreement was he keeps the guitar, he gives you $450 at some time. That's a lawsuit. That means that if you went there to retrieve your property, he says, I'm keeping the guitar, fine, you still owe me $450, you go to small claims court, you sue him for $450, and if that's your agreement, which he says it was, he gets you $450. So you had no right to take the guitar. So you went into the house, you took the guitar, and what happened?
He tried to get me to leave by using force. At one point, he was on top of me on the bed and was choking my neck.
Why didn't you leave when he told you to leave?
Because I wanted to take my things with me first.
The most important thing you said you were interested in taking was the guitar.
That's right.
Which I've already explained to you, you had no right to take. Okay, so what happened next?
I got a hold of the guitar and he said, fine, if you take it outside, I'm just going to follow you and take it back from you. So I went outside and he grabbed it from me. And I tried to go after him, but he pushed me down. And I got up and he pushed me down 3 more times. And then he turned around to go back into the house and I grabbed a hold of his back. And he said, Jenny, if you don't let go of my back, I'm going to hit you over the head with the guitar.
So you grabbed hold of his back, which means that you were sort of piggyback, is that right?
Yes.
So your feet were off the ground.
Yes.
And you were holding on to him.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And after he said that, he laid me back down onto the hood of the car,
So
He
that
laid you back down so that you would get off him.
Right.
Go ahead.
And then he got up off of me, and I got up and grabbed the guitar, and I ran around to the other side of the car, to the driver's side, and I got inside. I put the guitar and got inside the car. I shut the doors. I locked them. He looked really upset because I was in my car. There's nothing else he could do. At this point, he kicked off the passenger mirror of my car, and then proceeded to kick the front passenger door and the back passenger door a few times. And then he went inside, and his mother came out and asked if I was okay.
Do you have photographs of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Is this a picture of the hood of the car?
Yes.
Is there a dent in the hood of the car?
There are several small dents. The picture
Is
doesn't
that-
really show.
Is that from when you fell on the car? That you pay for?
Okay.
Let me hear your version of the events.
What happened was she came over to my house and we were just watching TV, and I asked her to leave several times over and over again. The only force I used to try and get her out of the house was I picked her up and carried her, and I got her outside finally to leave, and she took my guitar with her, so I went and got it back, and she continued to jump at me, try and get it back. She jumped on my back. I pushed her under the hood of the car because I wanted her off my back. I don't know if I kicked the car during the struggle on accident because she kept attacking me, but
The hood is during the course of the struggle. The kicks to the car aren't during the course of the struggle.
no, the struggle happened all around the car in my front yard. He was the only other person there that saw it. My mom didn't even come outside till afterwards.
Were you there all the time?
Yes.
Step up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Jennifer Lindstrom says ex-boyfriend Andy Kunkel owes for an assault and for kicking her car.
Tell me your name.
Tony Vaitkunis.
Tell me what you saw, sir.
I came over, I guess they had been fighting. I came over right when they went outside, and they were running around the car, shouting at each other, and she jumped up on his back, and I saw the money later on the hood of the car. I did not see him kick the car. I don't know anything about that. That came up when Andy got the papers that they were suing him. The fight was pretty much Andy saying, give me my guitar back, and her saying no, and him saying, get away from me, and her running after him and wouldn't just leave.
Okay, let me see the estimates for the car, please. All right, we're eliminating the hood. Do you know why we're eliminating the hood?
I know why you think it should be eliminated, yes.
You jumped on his back. He had to get you off his back.
Not
What do you want him to
throw
do,
me
hit you in
on
the head with the guitar?
No.
Okay. So?
But would that have been my fault, too, if he hit me on the head with the guitar?
Absolutely. He was stealing his guitar. Listen to me. The law doesn't take emotions into account. The law says it's his house. He asked you to leave. You didn't want to leave. He finally told you to leave. You finally said you would leave, and you took his property. Now, he has a right to get his property back. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He was not, that was his mother's house. He was not living there at the time, so
Yes, I was.
for him to say that he was not living at the home is incorrect.
Now, living in what home?
In his mother's home. He was not living there.
Well, his property was there. And he, as opposed to your daughter, at the time that she was told to leave by someone who has presumptive authority to be in the home, when she comes in with permission, but when she's told to leave, then it becomes a trespass if she doesn't leave. But your daughter had no right to take this guitar. The guitar had been given to the defendant. The fact that he owed her money is handled in a civil way. That's the way we resolve disputes in this country. She walks out the door, she gets into her car, she may be furious, but she gets into the car, and she says, I'm going to sue him for the $450 because that's what he owes me for the guitar. And he promised he would pay me back for the guitar.
Can I say something there?
Yes.
It was my belief that it would not become his guitar until he paid me back for it.
What your belief is irrelevant unless there is an agreement. And I guarantee you that when this guitar was purchased, you did not say to him, you may have physical possession of the guitar, but the guitar does not become yours legally until you pay me the money. You didn't say that to him, did you?
I said something similar, yes.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. That's not what a boyfriend and a girlfriend say to each other. It's not what even friends say to each other. They say, you'll pay me back? You know, I'm going to lay this out, but you'll pay me back for it? Yes, I will. That's it. So, the fact that he had to get you off his back and you dented the hood of your dad's car, you have to be responsible for that. But I find that you did, in fact, kick this car. You were angry because she had your guitar in the car, and you were angry.
She didn't have it in the car until she drove off.
Yes, and that's when she says you kicked the car.
No, because she didn't drive off until after my mom came outside, and when my mother came outside, I went back in the house.
Before your mother came outside, you kicked the car. Clearly, this car was kicked. This is not just pushing somebody against the side door. There's a difference between the side door of the car and the hood of the car.
I didn't say that I pushed her into it. I said during the struggle it might have accidentally happened.
Could have happened. I find that it didn't. And you probably should have let her, just on an emotional basis, let her take the guitar and go and sue for it later. If you feel as if it was yours, then you would have sued her, and she would have said, we had an agreement. When he gives me the $450, you can have the guitar. Right?
Yes.
So somebody's got to pay for this man's car. His daughter's going to pay for part of it, for the hood of the car, but you're going to pay for the sides, which comes to $957, judgment for the plaintiff.
Why does that excuse you to step out?
I think it was fine. I think she was fair in what the decision was.
The judge made some valid points, but that it was...
24-year-old clerk Mary Caldwell is suing her ex-girlfriend, 24-year-old plumber Janet Madrid, for an unpaid loan to buy a car.
Ms. Caldwell, you and the defendant were living together. You were in a relationship when you claim you made a loan to her to purchase a car for the down payment. Is that right?
Correct.
And according to you, the car down payment was $2,500. She made one payment of $200 to you and has failed to pay the rest. You want your money back?
Yes, correct.
The defendant says there was never a loan. When was the car purchased?
July of 2000.
How long had you been living together prior to that?
Over a year?
Now, as part of the defendant's response to your complaint, she says that a year before that, you had wanted to purchase a car, and she sold a couple of motorcycles that she had. Is that right?
Yes.
And gave you the money to put down on a car that you wanted to buy. Is that true?
Yes.
How much did she give you?
I don't have an amount for you. I'm sorry.
Did you ever pay her back?
No.
You are living together at this time in a relationship as a family. Is that right?
Correct, at the time.
And am I also correct that this car that she purchased was put in both of your names?
Correct. For the reason that she didn't have a driver's license, she was unable to drive.
Oh. Now tell me the circumstances surrounding this alleged loan, Miss Caldwell.
We were in a relationship. It was falling out at the time, but she asked me to loan her the money, in which I
What
loaned
did she
her.
say?
She said, I want to get a car. And I told her, okay, that's fine. I had the money on me. I said, well, it needs to be a loan. Do you understand that? And she said, yes. At that time, we went shopping around for a car. She chose the vehicle that she wanted. I made the down payment on it. She told me that she was going to pay me back. It was a verbal agreement between the both of us.
That sounds all pretty pat. All right, Miss Madrid, let me hear your version of it.
I never told her that I want to borrow the
No,
money.
I want you to tell me step by step. Don't tell me what you never told her.
We both said that we need a car.
Why? You already had a car.
No, because the car that she bought before this car had got repoed because she couldn't make the car payment on it.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. You didn't tell me that.
Sorry.
When had it gotten repossessed?
Maybe about 2 to 3 months before we bought this other car. And I was paying the last couple payments on that car because she couldn't pay for it. She lost her job. And so I said, I want to go get a car. And she's like, okay, yeah, we do need a car. And she had just got a settlement from an accident. And she's like, well, I have the down payment for the car. And I was like, okay, fine. I thought it was just like me giving her the down payment for her car. I thought it was an even swap.
Well, even swap. You said you gave her $800. This is $2,500.
Yeah, well, our whole relationship, she never paid bills. I paid all the bills. She never paid rent, nothing. I supported her.
Your
She
Honor.
didn't have a job. She didn't have a job. Anytime she needed money, okay, here, Mary, here's some money. So I took the loan out on the car to finance the rest of the car, and I've been paying on it ever since.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. In February of 2001, you gave her $200. What was that for?
It was probably for insurance or something.
Your Honor, that is not true.
Because insurance was in her name.
Yes, the insurance was under my name because she didn't have a license. How was the insurance going to be under her name if she didn't
I
have a
asked
license?
you a question.
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I do clerical.
Where? For whom?
For a hospital.
Which hospital?
It's actually called Medical Group.
How long have you been working there?
About 5 months.
Prior to that, where were you working?
Prior to that, I was working at a temporary agency.
So you weren't working regularly prior to that?
Correct.
Okay. Tell me about this alleged $200 payment.
When she was kicking me out of the house, she told me that she wanted all my stuff out of the house. I said, okay, that's fine. I'm moving all my stuff out of the house.
What day was that?
Maybe February, in the middle of February. So right around our supposedly anniversary is when it happened.
Well, tell me about it.
I asked her for money to give me some kind of repayment on the loan. She told me, okay, here's $200. She wrote me a check.
You have a copy of that check?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see it? Looks like she gave you money pretty regularly. What'd she give you money for pretty regularly?
Mainly to pay the bills.
No, she's got things here for the gas company. Pacific Bell? Here's one for $100 to you. On the bottom it says Janet's stuff. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Mary Caldwell, that's you, another $100. Mary Caldwell, $160. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a plumber.
Work full-time?
Yes.
All right, Miss Caldwell, let me tell you what I think, madam. What I think is that the two of you were living in a relationship as a family. And when the year before you wanted to buy a car, she gave you some money. And when the following year she wanted to buy a car and you had some extra money, you said, I'll put down the down payment, you make the payments, because you weren't working, you were working as a temp. And you were all living as a family. And now that you're not living as a family anymore, you say this was a loan. I don't believe you, your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't get to fully explain myself.
Well, I think the judge was fair.
I guess it was my fault because I didn't speak up enough.
And I had to get out of there.
She said she didn't owe me.
For Acetella is suing her ex-boyfriend's ex-wife, 40-year-old roofing assistant Paula Heyer, for ransacking her home and stealing her belongings.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, it's case number 172 on the calendar in the matter of Acetella versus Heyer.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, sir.
Miss Acetella, you had a boyfriend with whom you lived for about 9 years, according to your complaint. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What was his name?
Leo McCullum.
And you used to be married to Mr. McCullum. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
When were you divorced from Mr. McCullum?
In 92.
And you have children with Mr. McCullum.
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
I have 4 of my own natural children and 1 that I raised from his previous marriage.
Did Mr. McCullum ever have custody of his children?
Yes, at one time, yes.
When he was living with the plaintiff?
Yes, part of the time. Since 96, he had custody.
Which child or children lived with you?
Danielle, Samantha, and Joanna.
So 3 of the girls lived with you. Now, according to your complaint, Mr. McCullum attempted to murder you by pouring lighter fluid on you and setting you on fire. Mr. McCullum is currently incarcerated, serving a term of 30 years to life. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you hospitalized?
A total of 4 months.
While you were in the hospital, it is your claim that the defendant came to the home that you had shared with Mr. McCullum and took all of the property out of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
When you returned home, there was very little there.
I never returned.
Did you ever go back to see what was in the house?
No, ma'am.
Well, how do you know she took your property?
This is my witness. I'd like for her to come out, please.
Okay, well, we may not even have to get to your witness. Mrs. McCullum says that all the property that was in that house belonged to her former husband, and she was entitled to take it. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. I never took anything from the house other than my children's belongings. And I have my daughter, Danielle, who lived at the house at the time that this terrible thing happened. And she can verify as to what Mrs.
So it's
Costello.
your position that you took nothing from the house except your children's clothing?
That's right.
Okay, now I'll hear your witness. Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Terry Way.
Miss Way, tell me what you know about the plaintiff's property.
Well, I know that they lived together for almost 10 years, and they acquired furniture. She had jewelry. She had her clothing.
Did you ever see the defendant take any furniture from the house?
I did not actually see her take it, no, ma'am.
So how do you know she has it?
I went there 3 days after she was in the coma to get her belongings from the house and saw that the house had already been ransacked. And there was only 3 people that had keys to the house. Leo, who was in jail, Piper, who was in the coma, and the children. So the children, maybe Paula, I didn't see them actually take it, but they're the only ones that had access to the house to get those belongings.
Did you have to use a key to get into the house?
I didn't actually get into the house. I saw it through the windows.
Did you try to get into the house?
Yes, I did.
Was the door locked?
Yes, it was.
What floors could you see from the window where you were looking?
Mostly the living room and the kitchen.
And had you been to the house before?
Yes, I had.
So what kind of furniture had been there in the living room previously?
There was a couch and a love seat, a dining room set. That's all I can think of at the time.
And all of that was gone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm with you, Miss Heyer.
Okay. First off, I'd like to call my daughter Danielle for a witness. The first time we were allowed into the home, I wasn't even allowed. It was still under crime scene by the police for at least a week. The second day of this, I had to go by the home to have my daughter go in and pick up some medicine. She was escorted in by the police. At that time, I wasn't able to even go into the home.
And what about the third day?
I have no idea on the third day. They were going to contact us. I forget the detective's name at the time where we could go in and remove the children's clothes.
Well, this is a copy of a newspaper article. This indicates that Mr. McCullum at some point was free on bond of $300,000. So he was free awaiting trial for a period of time?
Yes, ma'am, almost a year.
When was bail set?
Bail was set, I believe, at the time that he was arrested, but between his attorneys, they wanted it reduced, but our side said no.
Doesn't make any difference. He was free on bail.
Yes, ma'am, but that happened 3 weeks after. He was in jail for 3 weeks before he was released on bond. And I have another article here that talks about the belongings.
I'd like to read that too. The defendant says she doesn't have them. I don't know whether she has them or not, but there has to be some proof that she has them, because there are possibly other explanations as to what happened to the property. I'll get to that in a minute. What's your name?
Danielle.
Danielle, did you originally lie to the police about this fire? Hmm?
Yes.
You originally lied to the police and told them that your father was nowhere around, is that right?
No.
Danielle McCullum said that she was standing 5 feet from her father and O'Neill in a neighbor's yard when the woman burst into flames. She said she didn't see a lighter in either of their hands. Later, she said she originally told the detective she had been in her room when O'Neill caught fire. She told the jury Wednesday she lied because she was scared.
That's true.
So why would I believe anything she says?
Ma'am, I never got a phone call. I never got a card asking how I was doing or anything. Nothing. After 9 years.
After 9 years and 3 of the children living with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they must not be very nice
I had
people.
my very bad faults, but after
drunk.
Excuse me? Listen.
She was an alcoholic.
Well, there
Just
had to
out
be
of
some
seven
reason why, listen to me, madam, she may not be perfect, but there had to be some reason why your 3 girls chose to live with their father instead of you. There had to be some reason.
There is. I was incarcerated.
Well, that's a very good reason.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Piper Acetella says her ex-boyfriend's ex-wife, Paula Heyer, ransacked her home and stole her belongings. Piper says the theft occurred while she was in a coma.
She says it wasn't her. It certainly wasn't you. That leaves old Leo. Now, what could Leo have done? Could Leo have given his attorney the key to the house and said to his attorney, in case she makes it, I don't want her to have anything? He could have done that. May have even sent it over to her house. Who knows? Anybody who was crazy enough to do what he did could do anything. And clearly, if he was out on $300,000 bond, he had some money. Where did he get the money from for $300,000 bond? From his parents.
Oh, yeah.
So he could have given his parents the key to the house.
They weren't there yet.
They're out of state.
It doesn't make any difference. Gotten it to them, said one way or another, you get into that house and take everything out of that house. I don't want, in case she gets better, I don't want her to have a thing.
Can she explain about Nancy, the woman that actually saw them taking the stuff in?
Well, I would like to hear a witness if you have that witness. Where is that witness?
She was reached by telephone, but apparently she couldn't make it here.
Why? Who is she?
She's Leo's cousin's wife.
She came to see me in the hospital quite frequently while I was waiting for her to come out of her coma.
Well, why can't she be here?
She said that she would be here, but she had to talk it over with her husband, and we think that when she did that, and since he's related to Leo, that they didn't want her to show up here because it would be a plus on her side. So she never did return the calls after that.
Do you understand my problem?
Yes.
What?
I know where the furniture went.
Well, then let me hear you.
Okay. Leo's brother, McCullum, had put everything into storage because the landlord had got a hold of him stating that he was going to trash anything and everything that was left in the house because the rent was due. So he took the stuff from the house, put it into storage. I have the receipts where he paid storage for 10 months.
And when was that done?
Just a second. Here we go.
And I was never notified.
Okay, so Leo's brother?
Yes.
Leo's brother took the stuff and put it in storage?
Yes, which he paid storage on for 10 months before he took it out.
Well, where is it now?
It's at his residence in Ozark, Missouri.
Your Honor, I was never notified.
With regards to the contents of Leo McCullough's household goods, McCullum, removed and put in storage in August of 1999. I kept it in storage for 10 months, which then I moved some of the property into storage in my house. Let us make copies of the storage receipts. Let us make a copy of this before the plaintiff leaves today. Now you know where your stuff is. You know where your furniture is.
maybe the furniture, but my clothes, I mean, they had a habit of stealing stuff out of my closet.
I know, but you can't prove that. We're talking about major stuff now. I mean, I can't say whether they took your clothes, whether they took your shirts, whether they took whatever. The brother went into the house, according to his own letter. He went into the house. That's what I said. I said, he could have turned this key over to a relative, to his parents, to his brother, and said, get it out of there. I don't want her to have anything, because I'm going to spend the rest of my life in jail anyway. Hopefully.
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 I'll be there to see it.
Right. So, here's this. Try again. Wrong defendant. Got it? Make sure she gets that. Thank you very much.
Why is that excuse? Step out.
4-year-old